So, Drunken Yoda, if he's still in the chat, Drunken Yoda sent this in. And yeah, it's a full class that he made. It's available in the DM's Guild, and if you look it up, it shows you it has a full class, it has subclasses, it has extra spells, it has NPCs. It's like a complete package. It's not just a class and that's it. Let's get cracked into this. I love a good PDF. Interesting, bold artwork choice. I don't think I've ever seen anything like that before, but yeah, looks cool. Daryl Dominguez, or Drunken Yoda as everybody knows him. He's on the Discord, he's on plenty of Discords. And I'll put a link down in the description for his Twitter as well if you want to give him a follow. I'm sure you'd appreciate it. Hey, he's in the chat. Hey, Yoda. Now, let's see what we've got here. So the Scion. The Mammoth Devil stands before the adventurers. He has attempted to claim the city from the Nine Hells, but this group has managed to thwart his plans time and time again. In the front line stands a man wearing ragged clothes, an old shield, a rusty sword, and a relaxed demeanor. As the devil charges violently, the ragged man makes a swift movement where he channels the power used to reshape reality to mark the devil with a blue sigil. When his sword cuts the devil, bolts of radiant energy come from the sigil, charged from the rusty sword. Now, I think that with the Scion, and Yoda, correct me if I'm wrong, I think that it's like a holy knight, but it's not a paladin in that regard. Order of Secrets. Sometimes holy knights are of no help, and there can be scenarios where they need to infiltrate the depths of a cult, or even hide in plain sight in a town that has been possessed by dark powers. This is where the Scion comes in. Dark secretive agents that hunt that which is unholy, putting their life in the line for those who judge them. So I think you could draw parallels to something like a witch hunter, or like a demon hunter of sorts, working for the holy churches, but working like an off-the-books special agent, a rogue agent of sorts. So you do have some sort of holy powers, but it's about getting the job done. It's not about staying ethical. Student of the Planes. The god's ability to reshape reality leaves pockets of their essence for those with the time, patience, and knowledge to use. With that small amount of divine power, Scions can manipulate the fabric of magic to cast spells. Connecting to these pockets of power is easier said than done. First, the Scion must enter a state that allows to connect to the planes of existence, only then seeks out the remnants of the powers willed by the gods. Afterwards, the Scion must have on himself an object that can retain their power to use when needed. As time passes, the Scions learn better to reserve this energy and have it be more powerful, helping them cast stronger spells. So it's about performing rituals on certain holy sites and absorbing the power from them in relics, and using this to great effect. So you're not getting divine powers or powers directly from a warlock patron or a divine source like the cleric. You're almost taking leftover holy power and absorbing it into your system. Now, I'm going to gloss over some of this because if you want to see it yourself, then you should pick up the subclass, or pick up the class even. Now, when you're creating a Scion, you want to focus on strength or dexterity as your highest ability, and intelligence. And you should choose the sage background. When creating a Scion, think about what deity or church is the one you serve and how you serve this order. This will help you choose a sacred task down the line. One thing that is done is your character's motivations. One thing that is done. Once this is done, think about your character's motivations. What alignment do you fight the enemies of your church? What types of tasks are you sent to do by your order? This reminds me a little bit of, in Skyrim, you have the Dark Brotherhood. Of course, there is no holy connection, but with the Dark Brotherhood, you're sent to assassinate people. And there's lots of occult and spooky things going on. I won't spoil the main plotline, but it's one of the real standouts from Skyrim, and it far outshines the main plot. And I think that I think it's probably one of the best things about the base game. So let's look at these abilities. Sacred Knowledge, Fighting Style. So it is like a melee, primarily melee magic-ish by the looks of it. Actually, I just wanted to check. We'll go back to this, but... So it's 1d8 on the hit points. It's not as tanky as a barbarian or fighter, but it does have a little beef behind it. So you have Sacred Sigils, you can memorize cantrips and spells. So it's kind of like going along the same lines as a Warlock or Artificer or Ranger, in the sense that it has limited spell slots. It's like a half caster in the strength. Although it is worth noting you do get cantrips, so this is probably a base part of the kit. You get proficiency with shields, simple and martial weapons, constitution and intelligence saving throws. So not strength or dex for the saving throws, okay. So this makes me think you should be favouring the intelligence when trying to make a class like this. Now let's go back to what we have here. So level 5 is extra attack, and what else do we have? We have Sigil casting, Empowered Sigil. So this looks like an ability that is laced through the whole core of the class. I like the idea of Planar Arcanum. I don't know what it is, but the name is fantastic. Divine Succor. Succor. I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm going to probably butcher it. But the sigil damage, it reminds me of scaling of the monk's martial die. So yeah, you've got there's some good ideas here so far. Now let's find out what all these ideas are about. So quick scan, you get the abilities, you get the subclasses, and you get NPCs, you get a lot of backgrounds and new spells. So there's a lot to take in here. But if you want to check it out, then check out Yoda's stuff on DM's Guild. So it's Sacred Knowledge at level 1. You have learned the basics to manipulate the power wielded by the gods found across the planes into spells that all Scions are trained to cast, with some changes to the arcane formula. You know the mage armor and comprehend language spells. Okay. I'm getting a theme of, between this and proficiency in calligraphy supplies, you're a little bit of a scholar as well. Is that true, Yoda? You can use comprehend languages to read text. It takes 30 seconds to read one page. So level 1, you get fighting style. Yes, this is... Oh, planar defense. What is this? And under the effects of the mage armor spell, you gain a +1 bonus to AC. I like it. Gives the wizard spell a little bit more beef, and it's tied to this class, so yeah. When you're so you get dueling, so you get one-handed weapon or great weapon fighting. Planar fists. So the comparison to monk wasn't too far off. By spending 1 hour per long rest, you can fuse a pair of hand wraps with your planar energy. While wearing them, your unarmed strikes deal bludgeoning damage to equal to 1d6 plus your intelligence mod. It's your choice of strength or dexterity modifier for the attack roll. So this could be good. It's not as powerful as the monk, but I think it has great thematic ability. If you want to sneak into a court of wizards, for example, with no weapons, then your hands are lethal weapons. Totally archivists. Yeah, I think I'm starting to get a better idea of what you're going for with this class. The more I read it, the more it kind of formulates in my head. So you also get the fighting style Planar Warrior. Your time reading basic magic has helped you learn one cantrip of your choice from the Scion spell list. Counts as a spell uses your intelligence. When you deal damage with a cantrip, you add your intelligence modifier to the roll. So, this is kind of the equivalent of the Eldritch Blast for the Warlock, but if you do like a damaging cantrip like, what is it, Shocking Grasp, or some ranged one as well. What's the fireball cantrip that all the wizards get? I forget the name of it, but I think it deals 1d8 damage. So you get the option of 2-weapon fighting as well. Now, level 2 you get cantrips. Hold on, do you get anything at level 1? Ah, okay. So level 1 you don't get access to any spells at all. So you're focusing primarily on combat, on melee fighting. Or, well, range fighting if you choose that. So, at level 2 you get Planar Power. So this gives you cantrips, spell slots. And it mentions Cure Wounds in the spell slot, so I'm assuming that you get healing spells with this class. Can you heal with this, Yoda? I'm not sure if you can heal or not, but oh, thanks. We got more spam in the chat there. That's real helpful. Thanks, guys. So we get, it looks like quite standard intelligence-based spell. So memorize spells of first level or higher. When you reach 10th level, you can learn new science spells, which can be 1, 2, and 3. When you gain a class level, you can't replace your spells, and if you wish to do, you must follow specific rules. So it's memorize spells, so you don't need a arcane focus for this. You can spend 1 hour a day, part of your long rest, to concentrate the power of your harvest you harvested into a chosen holy symbol, shield, or weapon. Ah, so you can buff up your shield or weapon as a spellcasting focus. Yeah. As a bonus action, you can summon the spell focus into your hand and dismiss it into a pocket dimension at any time without using an action. You can perform the somatic components of spells, even when you have a weapon or shield in both your one or both your hands. Huh. Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense because you're a melee class, so you wouldn't be restricting your spellcasting abilities. So with the Archivist, you're memorizing spells, but you're also... do you write them down anywhere? Unlike other magic casters, Scions do not get their magic from an oath, or even their bloodline. To cast spells, Scions must study arcane formulas to manipulate the fabric of magic like the gods do. You have memorized spells written down on any scroll. Spells can only be understood by other Scions. Cast a spell from a scroll, the Scion must follow the rules. Okay, yeah. I get this. Arcane focus is your weapon. So it feels like the spells, you have to memorize them each time you level up. And it looks like there's some restrictions on replacing spells. Scions can replace the memorized spells with another spell of the Scion spell list. To do this, they must spend 2 hours for each level of the spell they wish to learn. The previous spell is forgotten by them and cannot be cast in any possible way. Okay, so if we're looking at this correctly, you have a list of memorized spells, so you have a limited amount of spells you can cast, and limited spell slots as well. So it feels like people are going to fall back and rely a lot on cantrips and melee damage as well. So maybe utility spells would be better for this class, not just straight up damage spells. But we'll have a look at the spell list to see what sort of things they're pulling out. So because it's on the Dungeon Master's Guild, I believe you can use things from Xanathar's Guide, Tasha's Cauldron. It expands the spell list exponentially. So you get Booming Blade, which I think is going to be the the main cantrip to pick. Firebolt. That was it. That's what I was thinking of. So there's lots of damaging cantrips and message, minor illusion. Primal Savagery. Okay, that's worth noting. From the Druid spell list. I think it allows you to grow your nails or grow your fangs, your teeth, and use that as dealing melee damage. I think everything else is mainly wizard spells, as far as I can see. At level 1, you borrow the Warlock's Armor of Agathis. You do get Cure Wounds, so you can heal with this. Well, it's good that it has a limited amount of spell slots, because I think another healing classes, if it's a powerful healer, it would take away from the identity of the cleric or one of the other healers. I think if you just automatically slap healing on everything you have, then it loses its personality. But that's just my opinion. So at level 2, you also get Blur, Cloud of Daggers, Darkness is always good. Dragon's Breath and Thrall. Yeah, this does, looking at the spell list, does feel like it's similar to the Warlock spell list, but with some notable exceptions. Focusing a lot on melee damage spells and some utility. And of course you have the Scion specific spells such as Mist of Damnation and Aura of Self-Doubt, Sigil of Judgment. You'd have to check this out later on to see what these spells are all about. Well, I do like Shadow of Moil. Not familiar with that. Huh. Gonna have to look that up. What is Shadow of Moil? Let's look this up quite quickly. Is this just a spell I didn't check out? Flame like shadows wreath your body until the spell ends. You can become heavily obscured to others. Shadows turn dim light within 10 feet of you into darkness, bright light in the same area. In addition, whenever a creature is 10 feet of you is hit with an attack, you deal 2d8 necrotic damage. It does take 150 gold to cast, but yeah, that's a quite a cool spell. Now, let's check out the Sacred Sigil ability. Level 2, power you've harvested from planes can be used to mark your enemies with long-forgotten divine sigils, small visible divine symbols that are placed on a creature's body. It's almost like tattoos. As a bonus action, you can place a seal on a creature you can see within 60 feet for 1 minute. Now, are these sigils, what sort of things do they do? What are the effects? It ends early if your creature ends its turn more than 60 feet away from you. It's dropped to 0 if it's knocked unconscious. It is when a creature has a sigil on it, it's considered a sealed creature. So you can only have one of these up at a time. The moment you choose to consume a seal, the creature is no longer under the effect of the sigil, therefore no longer sealed. Whenever you hit a sealed creature with a melee attack, you can choose between dealing an extra 1d4 damage of your planar source type, or consume the sigil to deal an extra number of d8s of your damage equal to the maximum number of times you can use your seals per short rest. Oh, so it's, you put a seal on an enemy, you can deal extra damage, and then for one last final shout you can consume the seal and burn it off them. So yeah, this seems like a very offensive based ability. So how many times, let's have a look how many times you can use the sigil. So 2, and then level 5 you get 3, level 9 you get 4, level 13 you get 5, and level 17 you get 6. Yeah, that deals with some scaling up damage, so it's still going to be relevant at later levels. So yeah, Sacred Sigil looks pretty cool. And we're going to cover the planar source that was mentioned earlier in the text. Throughout rigorous study of the planes and religious texts, you have learned how to tap into one of your source's power while by the gods. You can choose one of the following, the best suits your alignment, good, neutral, or evil. Well, there's been... people are talking about taking out the alignment chart in the latest errata and Unearthed Arcana, so kind of scuppers some of this, but you can still do it. I'm sure the DM would let you. It's not going to be a game-changing thing. So good deals radiant damage, neutral deals force, and evil deals necrotic. That's cool, actually. Having it tied to your alignment is an interesting way to decide what damage type you do. I don't think I've seen that in any other classes or subclasses. It's always, some subclasses are tied to certain alignments, like the Clockwork Soul Sorcerer is neutral or lawful neutral, and things like the Fiend Warlock almost feel chaotic in nature. Or the Wild Magic Sorcerer. Empowered Sigil. At 2nd level, your time studying the power wielded by the gods along with the arcane formulas has helped you learn how to empower your sigils, making them deadlier. When you reach 2nd level, you gain 1 sigil. You gain additional powers of your choice at 6th, 11th, and 15th level. There's a lot of crunch in this. I like it. It's a lot of stuff to take in. It's one of those things when you read a new class, it feels like a new class. This does feel like it has its own identity. It's not just a gish. I don't think I know anything similar to this. I like the idea of tapping into the power from pockets of power that gods have left. It reminds me of the ley line abilities in Shadowrun. Essentially, you play as a shaman, and you can tap into natural resources, natural power bubbles that no one else can see, only you can see. And if you cast a spell in this area, it kind of flares up extra damage, or adds extra abilities. So let's not get distracted too much. Empowered Sigil. Additionally, when you gain a level in this class, you can choose one of the powers you know and replace it with another one. The Sigil power has a level prerequisite, so this is similar to the Warlock's Eldritch Invocations in that regard. You have Sigil of Conquest. You can use your action to make a melee spell attack. On a hit, it takes an additional damage, 2 plus d8 additional damage, plus your intelligence modifier. And it's the planar source. Additionally, the sealed creature must make a con save. On a failure, creature is knocked prone. Okay. So that's 6th level or higher, but that sounds like a pretty useful ability, dealing extra damage and knocking them prone. Sigil of Harm. Whenever you deal damage to the creature, you can deal additional damage equal to half of your proficiency bonus. The damage dealt of this type is the type of your planar source. That seems fairly basic, but feels like a good solid pick to take. It's not exciting, but it's functionally just going to make the numbers go up and make you even more deadly. So level 6 and higher, you get Sigil of Protection. When a creature is sealed, you gain resistance against BPS made by the sealed creature. Yeah. For level 6, that's good. It's always handy to have, and the fact that you can mix and match these different sigils means that you can almost accommodate for a fight coming up if you have enough information. If you think that the creature is going to be immune or resistant to anything, you can kind of accommodate that. Also, if it's got big claws like a dragon or a harpy or a hydra. Well, does a hydra have claws? More of a snapping mouth creature. But I do think that Sigil of Protection is good. Sigil of Repulsion. You can replace one of your attacks to force the sealed creature into making a strength save, or you can push it 15 feet. So this is good crowd control and battlefield manipulation. So you can deal damage, you can gain resistance, you can push it around. And Sigil of Spellcraft. The sealed creature gains a penalty to saving throws against spells you cast, equal to the maximum number of times you can use your seals per short rest. So you can debuff them. When you place the seal on a creature or as an action, can you guys see this okay? Let's scroll down a little bit. Sigil of Stagnation. So there's 15 level higher, so this is quite high. When you place the seal on a creature or as an action, you can force the target into making a wisdom saving throw. On a failure, the creature is under the effects of the spell slow, while the creature is sealed until you lose concentration. What level can you get slow at? Let's check the spell list. Up to low, slow. Ah, it's a 3rd level spell, so you're competing with Fireball, with Counterspell, Tiny Hut. Bum bum bum. So an effective target speed is halved. It takes -2 AC penalty. Can't use reactions. Takes a penalty to saving throws. On a turn, it can use either an action or a bonus action, not both. Can't make more than 1 melee or ranged attack per turn. So it can save against it a little bit. But yeah, I think slowing them down at level 15... would that be busted at level 10 or level 6? I'm not sure. I think level 15 might be too high a restriction for this. But I'm sure it's been playtested and balanced, so I'm gonna have to put my faith in Yoda in this one. Now, let's move on to level 3, Divine Talent. 3rd level, the divine power flows through your enhanced abilities. The divine power flowing through you enhances your abilities. Choose one of your skill proficiencies. Your proficiency bonus is doubled for any ability check you make that uses the chosen skill. That really laser focuses one skill for the player. You can heal. You can melee. You can cast spells. You can be proficient in a skill. It does feel like it's a melee focused jack of all trades. You're giving every opportunity to... have you ever heard of the term pancake? I first encountered this in Dark Souls. In the game Dark Souls, you get to create your character and you can add skill points to different attributes as you level up. But the best way to play this game is to focus on 1 or 2 abilities. The problem is, if you try and raise all of the abilities equally, you're as flat as a pancake and you won't get access to a lot of the cool spells or the cool weapons later in the game because they require you to focus in on one discipline. But I don't mean this in a negative way, but it feels like this class is a little bit of a pancake so far because you have a little bit of everything, jack of all trades. And to show that I think this is a good thing, take the Bard. The Bard can heal a little bit, it can cast spells, it can fight in melee, it can do a little bit of everything, and it's considered one of the most powerful classes in the game because of this. It can also be used to accommodate any weaknesses the party may have. That's why you usually have a wizard, fighter, cleric, and a bard. So you have melee, spells, healing, and everything else. So yeah, so far it seems pretty spread out. So also at level 3 you get Sacred Task. At 3rd level, you have transitioned from trainee into an official of the church, allowing you to choose how you serve it by selecting either Acolyte, Avenger, Inquisitor, or Magnus. I'm assuming these are the subclasses, which I won't be covering in this stream because I want to leave a little bit of temptation for anyone buying this, but I think going over the base class is good enough. So, you get features of your subclass at 3rd, 7th, 14th, and 20th level. I'm not sure about 20th level. I see this problem with the Paladin as well. With the Paladin, you have to almost play to the end of the game to get access to all of its abilities. And I know that the classes should be designed around everybody playing to level 20, but I feel like if you give the subclasses their last ability earlier on, like level 17 maybe, then it can allow you to feel like you've reached the upper echelon. You've reached the pinnacle, the zenith, the pinnacle and zenith. I just combined them, but it can make you feel like you've reached the pinnacle of the subclass, and then the rest of it is the pinnacle of your class. So it's about balancing the level of fun you're having with the class, like the balancing how you tell the story, the character progression. But yeah, so far so good. Ability scores, you get 4th, 8th, 12th, 16th, and 19th. So that's 5 ability score improvements. Now, I know the fighter gets extra ability score improvements, but I'm not sure by how much, so let's compare it to the fighter. Let's go down. So you get ability score at level 4, level 6, level 8, level 12, level 14, level 16, and level 19. So that's 7 ability improvements with the fighter. So you don't get as much ability score as the fighter, but it's still enough to bump up a lot of stats to 20. Level 5 extra attack, melee class, fighter style. Oh, sorry, melee fighting style. So yeah, it would be remiss not to give it extra attack. And at level 9 you get Sigil casting. Upon reaching your 9th level, once per long rest you can ignore the gold cost of writing down Scion spells and spend only 1 minute writing them down. You can only have one such scroll at a time, and it lasts until it's used. Or you'll create another. So Sigil casting, you can at level 9 you can almost shortcut a spell. So level 9 Sigil casting, and then oh, this is not what I first thought. Okay. So let's have a look at this again. Sigil casting, level 9. You can save money by writing a Scion spell, and it only takes 1 minute. So you're spending less out of combat materials. Yeah, this seems fair. It's not fantastically powerful, but it's functional. So I don't know how much gold you'll be strapped for. I don't know how much gold you're going to be needing at level 9. Usually by that part of the game you've got a large amount of gold and you're probably investing in something just to try and spend it. But every game is different. It all depends on the DM style. At level 10 you get Divine Weapon. You mastered the manipulation of planar power you wield. When you're holding your spell focus in your hand and you use your action to cast a spell, you can make 1 weapon attack as a bonus action. Ah, this is similar to the Eldritch Knight fighter subclass, I believe. But yeah, this is really good. Just throwing out an extra weapon attack. I think with the Eldritch Knight, if you use your attack action, you can use a cantrip as a bonus action. Or I can't remember if that's Eldritch Knight or if that's the Warlock, Bladed Warlock. What's the name of that? Hexblade. But yeah, it's a good ability to have. It makes it feel like you're using both your spells and your fighting. Level 13, Planar Arcanum. You can focus the planar power you have harvested into the most powerful spells that you can cast. Choose 1 4th level spell from the spell list as the Arcanum. You can cast it once per long rest without expending a spell slot. Let's check out the level 4 spells again. Aura of Doubt, Banishment, Blight, Dimension Door, Black Tentacle, Shadow of Moil, Sickening Radiance. So, I do like Black Tentacles as a spell. So, you can cast it without using a spell slot once per long rest. And you can expend an Arcanum to cast a different Scion spell you've memorized. corresponding to the... Okay. So if you choose a 4th level spell, for example, Blight, and you also know Armor of Agathis, you can spend the spell Arcanum to cast Magic Missile as a 4th level spell without expending a spell slot. Let me wrap my head around this. You can also expend an Arcanum to cast a different Scion spell you have memorized. For example, if you choose Blight and you know Armor of Agathis, you can use it to cast Magic Missile? I didn't see Magic Missile on the spell list. Am I missing something here? Mage Hand, Mending Message, Minor Illusion, Poison Spray. Yeah, Magic Missile is not on the spell list. I don't know if that's a misspelling or if that's intended. Yoda, if you're still around, I know it's a bit late in the stream, but if you're still around, can you give me some guidance on how this works? Well, let's continue with this. At 17th level, you gain a 5th level Scion spell of your choice that can be cast this way. Ah, it's on the Magus, or the Magus, so it's in one of the subclasses. That explains it. Thanks for the clarification. So finally, at level 18, you get Divine Succor. Or Succor. I'm afraid to look it up on Google. I don't know what will come up in the image search. But so, when you reach level 18, the control you have over your power of the gods flowing through your body is growing to where you can reach into the planes and bring forth a creature's spirit to assist you on your divine task. Once per long rest, as an action, you can cast a summoning spell at 6th level without using a spell slot and material components. The spell you are able to cast depends on your planar source and is based on the table below. So these spells, I believe they're from Xanathar's Guide or Tasha's Cauldron, but I don't know if Summon Fiend, Summon Celestial and Summon Draconic Spirit are all in the basic rules. Let's check it out. Thank you, D&D Beyond. So, Summon Celestial. Round and round we go. So, for example, if you're good, we can Summon Celestial. Ah yes, Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. That explains it. So, Celestial Spirits can multi-attack Radiant Bow, Radiant Mace, or Healing Touch. Ah! So there's theoretically another pathway to healing things. The spell itself is a 5th level spell, so it's not too high up there. At high levels, when you use a spell slot or higher, it doesn't have any real effect. You're just using a higher spell slot. Ah, Tasha's Cauldron of Everything and Fizz Bands, Yoda says. Now, let's get back to it. Now, I believe that's everything from the main class. So yeah, what do you guys think? You like it? Is this something you'd like to play in the future? Let's try and... Oh, that's not what I'm looking for. We'll just go back to this. It's easiest for format. Easiest layout. Let's just scroll down here a little bit. So, let's drink this all in. You're going to be going around hitting stuff, melee combat, casting spells, melee spells possibly. You can put... Was Sigil the curse you can put on creatures? Yeah, the Sigil. Sigil casting. Yeah, I think that was the Sigil. And you can deal extra damage to it, you can disable it. It feels like it's a good one-to-one fighting against creatures, but it may have weakness in dealing with multiple creatures at once, which is not a bad thing because other classes cover that. do get access to a limited spell slots and spell list, but there's some pretty robust spell options there, including healing spells, a lot of damaging spells, and I think jump was on there as well, and some teleportation spells. So yeah, I think that the additional sigil damage, yeah, it seems like a good class to take. The more I think about it, the more I want to try this out, just to see how it stacks up with the other classes. It may look good in isolation, but when you start playing it with other classes, to see how it interacts with the mechanics of them and how it interacts with the theming of them. This, I think, would go well in Fizzbands. Not Fizzbands, Strixhaven. This would go well in Strixhaven because it feels like it has lots of potential to be like a... what's the word I'm looking for? Like an undercover operative that poses as a teacher in the class. But yeah. This could also be... I know it's a little bit complicated, but it could also be used as a big bad evil guy or an NPC that the DM wants to try and put into the game. So I don't know if you'd need to take everything into account. You'd pretty much have to write a whole character sheet for it. But yeah, I think this is really cool. So the whole thing altogether is how many pages? 15 pages. And it's up on the DM's Guild. Yeah, so if you like it, check it out. It's got my seal of approval.